Can you imagine being 4 years old, barely able to tie your shoes, and your own parents just drive away, leave you behind like a forgotten toy? That was me. That was my start. And if you think that's bad, fast forward a couple of decades. The same parents, the very people who abandoned me, had the absolute audacity to sue me, not for a small amount, not for a token gesture, but for a mind-boggling $2.7 million. Why? Because my incredibly generous, loving grandfather, the man who actually raised me, left me everything in his will. Was I wrong for keeping every single penny? Tell me, honestly, would you have done the same thing? My earliest memories aren't of lullabies or bedtime stories from my mom and dad. They're of a cold park bench and the growing dread as the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in colors too beautiful for the terror bubbling in my tiny chest. I remember the exact squeal of their tires as their car, a big blue sedan, sped off. They had told me we were going for a special adventure, a picnic. They packed a small basket, laid out a blanket, and then, while I was distracted by a particularly interesting ant, they just left. I was 4 years old, alone and utterly bewildered. I don't remember how long I sat there, but eventually a kind woman, a park ranger, found me. I was clutching a deflated balloon and whispering to myself. She took me to the station, and that's when my grandfather, my Abuelo Mateo, came. He wasn't a young man then, his hair already streaked with silver, his hands calloused from years of working in his garden. But when he saw me, his eyes, usually so full of gentle wisdom, filled with a sorrow so deep it mirrored my own. He didn't ask questions or scold me. He just scooped me up, held me tight, and whispered, "Mi pequeña mariposa, you're safe now, my little butterfly." That name stuck. From that day on, Abuelo Mateo was my world. He lived in a cozy, slightly cluttered house, filled with the scent of spices and old books. His garden was a riot of color and life, and he taught me the names of every flower, every herb. He taught me to read, to cook, to mend my own clothes. He taught me about resilience, about kindness, and about the quiet strength that comes from loving deeply. He never once spoke ill of my parents, not directly. He'd simply say, "Some people make choices, mi pequeña, and sometimes those choices are hard to understand. But love, true love, always finds a way." He was my anchor, my teacher, my best friend. We didn't have much money, but we had everything that truly mattered. Birthdays were celebrated with homemade cakes and hand-knitted sweaters. Christmas was about the joy of being together, not about lavish gifts. Every night, he'd read to me from his worn copy of Don Quixote, and I'd fall asleep to the rhythm of his voice. I never saw my parents again. Not a letter, not a phone call, not even a Christmas card. They vanished completely from my life. And for years, their absence was a dull ache, a phantom limb that occasionally throbbed. But Abuelo's love, his unwavering presence, slowly but surely, filled that void. When I was in high school, I started working part-time jobs to help out. Abuelo was getting older, his hands starting to tremble, his steps becoming slower. I wanted to ease his burden, to give him a comfortable life. I worked at the local library, then at a small bakery, saving every penny. Abuelo insisted I use the money for my education, for my future. He always believed in me, pushing me to pursue my dreams, whatever they might be. I ended up getting a scholarship to a good university, something Abuelo was incredibly proud of. He drove me to campus on move-in day, his old truck rattling, his face beaming. He hugged me so tightly, it felt like he was trying to pour all his love into me, just in case. I visited him every weekend, called him every night. He was still my rock, even from a distance. After I graduated, I found a decent job in marketing. I moved into a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I made sure Abuelo was comfortable, always checking in, bringing him groceries, helping with the garden, Our roles had slowly reversed. I was now taking care of him, just as he had taken care of me. We had a routine, a rhythm to our lives that felt so natural, so right. I remember one evening, sitting on his porch swing, watching the fireflies dance in the twilight. He looked at me, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "You know me, pequeña," he said, his voice soft. "I never regretted a single moment with you. You were the greatest gift life ever gave me." I cried that night, burying my face in his shoulder. I told him he was my hero, my everything. Then came the day I had always dreaded. Abuelo Mateo passed away peacefully in his sleep, just a few months shy of his 90th birthday. My heart shattered into a million pieces. The world felt colder, quieter, stripped of its most vibrant color. The funeral was small, just me and a few of his old friends, people who had known him for years and adored him as much as I did. We shared stories, laughed through our tears, and celebrated the incredible life of a truly good man. A few weeks later, I received a call from a lawyer, a man named Mr. Henderson. He informed me that Abuelo Mateo had left a will and that I was the sole beneficiary. I wasn't surprised. Abuelo had always said everything he had would go to me. What did surprise me, however, was the amount. Mr. Henderson explained that Abuelo, being the incredibly astute and thrifty man he was, had quietly invested in a few ventures over the decades. He had bought some land years ago that had appreciated massively due to urban development, and he had made some very smart, conservative investments. The total sum, after everything was tallied and processed, was just over 2.7 million $. I was speechless. My abuelo, the humble gardener, had been a quiet millionaire. He had lived simply, never flaunted his wealth, and dedicated his life to raising me. The weight of his love, his sacrifice, his belief in me, settled in my chest, a bittersweet warmth. I was still reeling from the shock of the inheritance, trying to process it all, when the second, far more unsettling call came. This time, it was from a different law firm representing my biological parents. They had somehow found out about Abuelo's will and the inheritance. Their lawyer informed me, in the most chillingly detached tone, that they were demanding their rightful share of the estate. Their argument, that as my biological parents, they were entitled to a portion, or perhaps even all, of the inheritance that should have been theirs through me. They claimed that Abuelo had manipulated me, that I had unduly influenced him, and that the will was invalid. It was a vicious, baseless attack, and it felt like a punch to the gut. The very people who had abandoned me at 4 years old, who had never once contacted me, who had shown absolutely no interest in my existence, were now crawling out of the woodwork like vultures, their talons extended for money. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here I was, finally in a position of financial stability, thanks to the man who truly loved me, and suddenly my biological parents, ghosts from a traumatic past, appeared, not to reconcile, not to apologize, but to demand money. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have given them a single cent? Or would you have fought tooth and nail to protect what was rightfully yours? What Abuelo had intended for you? My initial reaction was pure, unadulterated fury. How dare they? How dare they show up now? After all these years, after all the pain they caused. My next thought was of Abuelo, his legacy, his unwavering love. This money wasn't just money. It was a testament to his life, his hard work, his belief in me. Giving it to them felt like a betrayal of everything he stood for, everything he had given me. I called Mr. Henderson immediately. I told him, with a voice I barely recognized as my own, that I would not give them a single penny. I would fight them with everything I had. Mr. Henderson, a calm and experienced man, listened patiently. He explained the legal process, the potential costs, the emotional toll it could take, But he also assured me that their case was incredibly weak. Abandonment was a powerful factor, and Abuelo's clear and concise will left no room for ambiguity. The legal battle began. It was a draining, soul-crushing experience. My parents, through their lawyers, painted me as an ungrateful, manipulative child who had alienated Abuelo from them. They tried to portray themselves as heartbroken parents who had lost touch due to unforeseen circumstances, implying they had tried to find me. It was a disgusting fabrication. I had to sit through depositions, reliving the trauma of being abandoned, recounting the lonely childhood moments, and then the warmth and security Abuelo had provided. They dredged up every painful memory, every insecurity I had ever had about being unwanted. But through it all, I held on to Abuelo's memory, his strength. I had a photo of him in my wallet, a small worn picture of him smiling, holding a rose from his garden. Every time I felt like crumbling, I'd look at it and remember why I was fighting. The court process dragged on for months. There were motions, hearings, endless paperwork. My parents never showed up in person. It was all handled through their lawyers, which in a way made it even more infuriating. It felt like they were sending proxies to do their dirty work, unwilling to even face me. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. I sat in the courtroom, my hands clammy, my heart pounding against my ribs. Mr. Henderson was by my side, a reassuring presence. The judge's voice, clear and resonant, began to read the decision. He systematically dismantled my parents' claims, citing the irrefutable evidence of abandonment, the lack of any contact for decades, and the ironclad validity of Abuelo's will. He concluded that their lawsuit was frivolous and without merit. The judge ruled entirely in my favor. I kept every cent. Not only that, but the court also ordered my parents to pay a significant portion of my legal fees, recognizing the malicious intent behind their lawsuit. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The battle was over. I had won. But the victory wasn't sweet in the way I imagined. It was just quiet. My parents were finally, officially out of my life. Their last attempt to hurt me thwarted. The money, now truly mine, felt heavy in a good way. It was Abuelo's enduring love, a testament to his life. I used a portion of it to establish a foundation in Abuelo Mateo's name, dedicated to helping children who have been abandoned or are in difficult family situations. I bought a small house, big enough for a beautiful garden, just like his. I still work, but now I also dedicate my time to the foundation, ensuring Abuelo's legacy of kindness and love continues. The rest of the money, I'm investing wisely, just like he would have, building a secure future, not just for myself, but for the causes he believed in. So, that's my story. It's a messy, painful, but ultimately triumphant tale of love, loss, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. My parents abandoned me, but my grandfather saved me, and in the end, his love protected me, even after he was gone. Like this video. If you were on my side in this crazy legal battle, subscribe for more stories like this one. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story.